for financial reforms, including breaking up the big banks that have only gotten bigger than ever. And we need to fix them on both counts so that they're no longer too big to fail and no longer too big to jail, so they actually have their day in court for the waste, fraud, and abuse that has actually decimated the wealth of average Americans by an astounding 40%. It's just staggering the price that we have paid. So it's time for the big banks to be held accountable. It's time to stop bailing them out and take an example from Iceland, which actually broke up the big banks, sent the bankers to jail. Their economy took a temporary dip while they adjusted, and now they are doing better than just about all of Europe because they put their economy on a clean footing, and we need to follow in their footsteps. We call for a variety of other financial reforms as well that you can see in the Green New Deal if you want to take a look at it up on our website. And we also call for democracy reforms, including a constitutional amendment to guarantee the right of the vote so that these voter ID laws do not stand a chance to take away the vote of so many people who are being threatened by these voter ID laws. We're calling for reliable voting systems that ensure that every vote is counted, and that means a hand-marked paper ballot. We need to do away with the electronic. Like instant runoff, also known as ranked choice voting. So you can actually go and rank your choices instead of having to worry. And okay, that's my 5-minute warning. So I'm going to jump here to kind of the take-home. The take-home is, as Alice Walker says, we are the ones we've been waiting for. And that it's time for us to stand up. You'll hear over and over again, from your friends and colleagues, you're going to vote for who? You're going to do what? Are you sure you want to do that? Well, the thing to point out to them is that this politics of fear, which has been just drummed into us for at least the last 10 years, that it just doesn't have a leg to stand on. First of all, if you look at what actually happened in Nader-Bush-Gore, if you look at the exit polls, that stuff is just a public relations, it's a spin campaign designed to silence opposition. Nader's votes came equally from Democrats and Republicans, but the vast majority of his votes actually came from Ross Perot voters in the prior election. These were people who were independent, who otherwise would not have voted Democrat or Republican. So it was not Nader who stole the election, it was the Supreme Court that stole the election. And, beyond what happened then, there is the broader case that we are a diverse country, diverse people, many ideas. We need multi-partisan democracy, not just two-party. Upside down here to say that votes belong to those two sold-out corporate parties. Actually, the votes belong to us. We deserve multiple choices and multiple parties in order to have, number one, a real dialogue, and also, number two, so that you have enough moving parts that they're not all going to get bought out by big corporations. That's what happens when you only have two choices. We need many choices. Vote for an independent political party. It's actually life-saving, job-saving, health-care saving, planet-saving, and climate-saving, and we are the ones who are going to lead the way.
Yes.
So when they say, that you dare not stand up and vote your values, they're they're actually telling you, to continue this policy of silence. We've been told to be quiet, to just go along to get along, to vote for the lesser evil. But we have a 10-year track record now on where that leads. There were a lot of people who were scared into that thinking by the spin campaign following the Bush election. So we saw independent political votes, we saw the Green Party really take a big hit and a big step backwards. So where has that system brought us? This strategy of silence. What we've seen is that silence is not an effective political strategy. And the politics of fear, in fact, has brought us everything we were afraid of. All those reasons we were told to be quiet, be good little boys and girls at the polls, all those things we were afraid of, we have gotten by the droves. On the Wall Street bailouts, $700 billion under Bush, but $4.5 trillion under Barack Obama, with many trillions more with the free giveaways and the zero-interest loans. On the expanding war, we were told, be very quiet because you didn't want to get a president who would expand the wars. But look what happened. On day 3, Barack Obama began to bomb the heck out of Pakistan. Where were the Republicans in the room to blame that one on? They weren't there at all. Likewise, the decision to bring Larry Summers into the White House and basically give away the store to, the very predators that engineered the Wall Street meltdown. There was no Republican Party to blame that on. This was all, out of that politics of fear bringing us what we were afraid of. Same, why did we withdraw from Iraq? If you may remember, it didn't get well publicized, but it was because Barack Obama was not able to extend the immunity for U.S. soldiers. George Bush had negotiated a date on which that immunity ended, and Barack Obama worked his darndest to try to extend that date and keep our troops there for the indefinite future. He was unable, so he declared victory and said he was the peace president and withdrew. Meanwhile, he expanded the drone bombings, surged the troops into Afghanistan. It's just another example of how this politics of fear delivered everything we were afraid of. Same on our civil liberties, same on the attack on immigrant rights, and same on the attack on our climate, where this president embraced the policies of George Bush, the drill, baby, drill. So with that, I will
go on forever. That's fine. We got it.
Yes, and let me not omit the issue of health care as a human right, which is another key piece of our agenda and part of the Green New Deal. I live in Massachusetts. We already have the Affordable Care Act, and we know that it is A, not affordable, and B, it is not caring, because it does not provide real care. It provides the illusion of care, and you have your piece of paper, and you feel good until you get sick, when you discover that in spite of paying big, hefty fees for this Affordable Care Act, so-called, it's not affordable. In spite of paying big time for it, you're not covered. It has enormous holes in it, and if you truly get sick, guess what? You're on your way to bankruptcy, to medical bankruptcy, just as much under the Affordable Care Act in Massachusetts as you were before we had it. In fact, polls show, surveys show in Massachusetts that people now consider affordable health care even further out of reach than they did before we had it. So it's not a solution. It was created, and I know this too from watching it happen in Massachusetts, it was created by the lobbyists for the health insurance and pharmaceutical industries. They are the winner in this health care program. And they're making out like bandits, but it's not answering our health care needs. Costs continue to skyrocket. Our state budget continues to be gobbled up by runaway health care costs, as are our cities and towns, as our small businesses, as our families and individuals. This system is breaking our backs without actually delivering health or health care. It was written in Massachusetts behind closed doors by those lobbyists Even the legislature in Massachusetts was unable to see it or read the law until the night before the bill was voted on. I mean, which speaks volumes about what's inside of it and the fact that the national bill was based on the Massachusetts bill. So we know what the solution is. It is Medicare for all, which is a win-win. It covers our health and our health care comprehensively. So that includes things like your ears and your teeth and your reproductive health care and your mental health and your meds, including your psych meds. It includes the whole 9 yards, all these little pieces in that link, that chain of what makes us healthy. We need to be covered in our entirety. You're only as healthy as your weakest link. So it's really important that we have a comprehensive healthcare system like Medicare for All, which covers not only acute and urgent care and short-term illness, but also covers chronic illnesses and the diseases of aging and nursing home care and chronic care and things like that. So it's a wonderful system. It puts you back in charge of your healthcare decisions, not some insurance CEO. Instead, you get to decide where you get your care, and you and your healthcare provider decide what you need for your coverage. What procedures and pharmaceuticals and whatever you need, it's your decision, not the insurance company. And finally, the big well-kept secret is that it saves us trillions of dollars over the next decade. It doesn't cost us, it saves us because it eliminates that massive, wasteful, private health insurance bureaucracy that eats up 30% of every healthcare dollar right now. Instead of putting our dollars into paper pushing and bureaucracy, we can put our dollars right into healthcare. That enables us to cover everyone, and then we actually save money because under single-payer systems, you stabilize this rising cost of healthcare, so-called medical inflation. It goes away. That saves us trillions of dollars. So how about it? We got 2 ways, many others as well, but between these two, to solve the problem of the growing national deficit, we could have austerity, or on the other hand, we could have health care for everyone. Which one would be a better way to solve our deficit problem?
Health for everyone.
Yeah, how about it? Exactly. So when you think about it, there are 50 million people out there who need health care, who don't have it at all, and many more who are underinsured. And that's not going to go away, even under the so-called Affordable Care Act. Well, we will still be massively underinsured, and there will be many people who aren't covered. There are 36 million students and recent graduates.
She's wonderful, but she's got to be held.
To wrap up, there are so many of us out there, between those who need health care, those who need to be bailed out and not held in this indentured servitude that an entire generation is being trapped in right now. If 36 million students alone got up and said, we're going to go to the polls and actually use our votes, not as a weapon against ourselves, which is what they're trying to tell us to do, but we actually use our votes for ourselves. We vote for the future we deserve. If those 36 million students alone stood up, we would turn politics on its head in this country. There are 90 million voters out there now predicted, a study published in USA Today 2 weeks ago. 90 million voters, twice as many as the number that are going to vote for Barack Obama or the number that are going to vote for Mitt Romney. They are staying home because they know that neither of those candidates represent their interests. If we can get the word out to them, we could actually turn the White House into a greenhouse that is delicious. I'm just going to say, it's in our hands. Think Tahrir Square. When they try to tell us that we are powerless, remember, it's exactly the other way around. We have the facts. We got the solutions. We have truth and justice on our side, and for once, we actually have public opinion on our side on all of these issues. If democracy has anything to do with it, we are going to win this election. If not, away from us if we stand up and claim it. So go to our website and join us on Facebook, join us on Twitter, get the word out, talk to friends and neighbors, because people out there, 1 out of every 2 voters basically, is clamoring for what we've got. And this is the time for us to stand up. I encourage you to make a donation if you are in a position to be able to do that. If we can raise in this end of the election what we raised in the first part, essentially $500,000, we have the potential to really come up in the polls. We've been very busy just getting on the ballot, and we're on the ballot for 85% of voters in about 39, maybe 40 states. But the vast majority of voters will actually have a choice. That's what we've been doing for 10 months. Even before we have started a real campaign, we are creeping up in the polls. We've come up from undetectable to 1%, then doubled to 2%. That's 2 million voters right there who hadn't heard about us, weren't going to vote for us before. If we can double that again, and maybe a little bit more, we could get to that 5% threshold where you actually kick into a $20 million grant from the federal government to begin the next election with. It also means we begin the next election, we hit the ground running, because we will be on the ballot. If we can get to 5%, we're already on the ballot, and we can start the election when that election actually begins. So, you know, this is that perfect storm. It's what so many of us have been working for decades. This is that moment to make good on all that incredible, wonderful work. Thank you all for all you've done to get us here. And let's go forward and turn this breaking point that we face into the tipping point we deserve to take back our democracy and the peaceful, just future that is within our reach right now if we stand up. Thank you.